I want to speak briefly about China and its efforts to bully Australia into submission. The Australian government has done nothing more than call for an independent inquiry into the origins and handling of the virus that originated in China and has killed thousands and devastated the global economy. China's insanely disproportionate response is to openly threaten our country, including talk of imposing an 80% tariff on Australian barley, banning imports from 4 Australian abattoirs, and other forms of economic retribution. That's not how an ally behaves. That's how a deeply secretive and corrupt regime that has plenty to hide about the coronavirus catastrophe behaves. This is a regime that, while hoarding the world's medical supplies in January, was simultaneously pressuring the World Health Organization not to declare a global health emergency. If we don't stand up to China now, we never will. There will not be another opportunity for Australia, along with the rest of the free world, to show this dictatorship that it can no longer bully smaller nations into submission. We are seeing the formation of a global alliance against China as countries count their dead and the economic fallout of the Wuhan coronavirus. In recent weeks, no fewer than 7 Chinese ambassadors from France to the US to the African Union have been summoned by their host to answer a range of accusations, including spreading misinformation. That's something we should do after China's ambassador to Australia said, "Some politicians here claim the virus originated in Wuhan, China, which is not the case. The fact that the epidemic first broke out in China does not mean the source of the virus originated in China." Really, Ambassador? Around the world, countries are taking decisive action against China. Sweden has closed all Confucius institutes and axed twin city relationships with China. Spain and Netherlands are among countries that have rejected Chinese-made medical masks and testing kits, hundreds of thousands of which have proved to be faulty. Even New Zealand has grown a backbone and joined the US and Australia in calling for Taiwan to be admitted into the World Health Organization, a move sure to enrage Beijing. But as New Zealand's Foreign Minister Winston Peters said, we have got to stand up for ourselves. And now Australia has secured European support for an independent inquiry, and there is a possibility, slim possibility, of the inquiry being approved at the WHO Forum to be held tomorrow. For too long, the West allowed China to grow in strength in the mistaken belief that the more we trade with them, the more they'll come to embrace our values of democracy, freedom and equality. But that has been shown to be nothing more than a naive fantasy. It took a devastating global pandemic, but finally there is a pushback against China and its conduct. In large part, a lot of that is due to the Trump administration. It's worth noting that the US Senate just voted for a bill to sanction Chinese government officials for gross human rights violations over the treatment of the Uyghur minority, around 2 million of whom are in concentration camps right now. The Republican-led Senate passed the bill by unanimous consent on Friday. But while much of the free world is finally standing up to China, there is a Quisling subset among us unwittingly doing Beijing's bidding. And sadly, a number of them are Labor MPs, from veteran Senator Kim Carr to the Victorian Treasurer Tim Pallas, who warned last week that the vilification of China was dangerous, damaging and probably irresponsible, before blaming the Morrison government for China's decision to punish our farmers, instead of blaming the Chinese dictatorship. A dictatorship with a long track record of bullying and economic coercion. This is no time for weakness. To submit to China's intimidation would be disastrous. At this critical time, we need every politician to put Australia's long-term interest and sovereignty first.